this is a video for graduate students in preparation for submitting your thesis or culminating research project in the SUNY Open Access Repository. And I wanted to start in the places where you can access the guide for doing this process. That's going to help you along. So there's two places that you can use to find the library guide for SOAR for graduate students. The first is from the SUNY Oneonta Graduate Studies Resources page. And we're just down here under Digital Master's Theses and Culminating Projects. It describes what SOAR is and links to our guide right here. The other place that you can find this guide, if you don't know where the Graduate Studies Resources page is directly from the SUNY Open Access Repository itself. It's located at soar.suny.edu, and when you go to the Oneonta collections, there's also a link to the graduate student guide on this first page here, Electronic Theses and Master's Projects Guide, or under the SUNY Oneonta Master's Theses and Projects section. Likewise, there's a link to the guide. Okay, so either way, you can get to where I'm trying to take you, which is this Electronic Master's Theses and Projects guide. Basically, this guide is set up with an overview, including another video that gives you a tour of the SUNY Open Access Repository SOAR, information about SOAR written out also, and some basic descriptions of the submission process and the different graduate program requirements related to SOAR. This is all on that first overview page here. We also have a link back to SOAR from here, which I'm not going to take you on because we were just there. But there are a few things that you need to consider when you're getting ready to submit to SOAR. There are some things you're going to have to do ahead of time, and there's some things you're going to have to do during the submission process. First, before you're ready to submit, you need to make sure that your master's project documents are electronically accessible. This is a commitment that our campus and the SUNY system have made, and it's also the right thing to do to make sure your work is accessible to readers with all abilities. So on the Electronic Master's Theses and Projects Guide, under Accessibility Formatting, you're going to find kind of a step-by-step listing of what to do, sort of the main steps to make your Word document or Google document accessible to people who use screen readers, who have low vision, things like that. So I also have some videos detailing specifics about this. The most important thing we ask you guys to do is to add alternative text or alt text to any of your images, graphics, tables, things like that. That's going to make a really big difference. And I have a video here that's on how to add alt text in a MS Word document. I also have links to how to do it in Google Docs. You can also learn how to use heading styles for structure. This is another important thing to know in the future job market anyway, how to use these kind of skills and make your documents accessible, and etc. Check color contrast. If you want to know more about how screen readers work, why we're doing this kind of work, you can watch that video. That's an external video that I included for your instruction. Okay, so you've finished your thesis or your project report. You have applied the accessibility formatting that we request of you, and then you're ready to move to the submission process. So you're going to follow this link to submit to SOAR on the submission process page, but there are some decisions when you get to that page that you're going to need to make, and I describe them here and how you might want to think about them. The first is what you're going to upload. Not all graduate programs require the full text upload. Some only require you to submit a description, including an abstract and other descriptive metadata. So you can look to see back on the overview page what your program requires, or you can talk to your advisor. But you should know ahead of time, are you submitting the main document, the whole document, or are you submitting a record only? You can also choose to submit supplementary materials, such as the dietetic students often submit posters that they used to describe their research, or Sometimes we have students submitting data sets in Excel spreadsheets that they want to share openly related to their research. So you have an option to also submit supplementary materials on the submission form. Another choice you have is whether you want to create an embargo period. An embargo period is if you want to include the full text, but you want to delay the distribution of that full text for a certain period of time. And we recommend up to 2 years. This might be a case where you are trying to publish your thesis or research project in a peer-reviewed journal, and you want to make sure that it doesn't cause a conflict with the editors saying that it's already published, although usually a repository and a thesis does not count. But in case you want to be sure, you can use the embargo period option and decide how long, by a number of months, you want to restrict access to the downloadable version of your thesis or your project, and only the record will be visible for that period of time, and then once that date passes, the full text will be available. Finally, the third choice you have to make in the submission process is the Creative Commons license. To make this easy for you, we recommend that all graduate students apply the CC BY and CND license. That means it requires attribution by users. It requires they cannot use it. This is NC non-commercial. Users can't use your work for commercial reasons. And ND means no derivatives, which means users cannot adapt or change your work without your permission. This is the most restrictive of the Creative Commons licenses, and it makes it very clear what users are and are not allowed to do with your work. That's why we recommend it for graduate student projects. If you prefer to have a less restrictive license, you can, or to learn more about Creative Commons licensing, you can follow these links down here to the CC License Chooser tool, or talk to me, the Scholarly Communications Librarian. Okay, so now that we've just reviewed the main choices, we're going to go to the form itself. And it's a pretty simple form, I hope. If you have any recommendations on how to make it better, you can email me at openaccess@oneonta.edu. You're going to choose the department you're in, and some departments have multiple master's programs, and so you would indicate which program you're in. There's a section of required information, which includes your contact information, your last name and first name and initials as you would like them to appear in the repository. If there's multiple authors on your project, we like to have them all listed in the correct order here. Your faculty advisor's name or the instructor of your research seminar. You want to put the full title and the date of approval, so that could just be the year of submission or approval. The next section is where you choose whether you want to submit the full text, and we hope that if your department allows it, that you do choose that to make your work openly available to readers around the world. And if you choose that option, you're going to get a pop-up with a couple places that you can upload. We prefer you submit in Word or Google Doc format for your reports, and I will change it into a PDF form in the library after doing accessibility checks. It's a lot easier for me to do accessibility remediation on a Word document than it is on a PDF. If you're in a program that does not allow the full text, you just click no, I do not want the full text available, and you don't have that submission or the upload options. The last required step is that the SUNY Open Access Repository actually requires, sorry about the neighbor dogs, actually requires that the submitting authors kind of read through this license and grant the license. Basically, it says that this work is yours and that you are granting SUNY the non-exclusive right to reproduce, translate, and or distribute your submission by posting it on an open access repository. You can read the whole full language there. If you have any questions about that, please contact me at openaccess@oneonta.edu. Then there's a whole bunch of optional sections. We really highly recommend, and your faculty member actually might require you to submit an abstract or description of the project, which shows up in the SOAR description and is really important for people deciding whether or not to actually download and read your article. If you have a citation, we put an example here of what it might look like, how you would like other people to cite your work if they use it in their own research. If you have keywords associated with your thesis or project, you can include them here. That's your option. If you want to acknowledge a research funder, you can click yes, and there's a space to include funders. And again, here is the Creative Commons license that we recommend. You can just choose the easy recommended, or if you've done a little research or you already know about Creative Commons licensing, you can choose the other options. If you prefer to apply a different CC license, you can list it here. Last is that if you have other notes or information for me as I'm preparing your paper for upload to SOAR, I would appreciate having it here. So that is the submission process, and in the end, your work will end up, let's see if I can take you back to SOAR. Your work will end up in our repository, master's projects, looking really beautiful, where people all over the world can find them. Thanks a lot.